If you're a US ham, the GT5R is the UV5R model you should get. And now there's the GT5R Pro. What's not to like? Well, we'll see. I got my first GT5R several years ago when folks started noticing the UV5R failed the US FCC's spurious emissions tests for low power radios in the 30 to 225 megahertz frequency range. For all practical purposes, the GT5R and the UV5R were identical, except for the fact that the GT5R met the FCC requirements. I'll be honest with you, I've got no idea why Baofeng markets the UV5R that fails the test while the GT5R passes the test and costs the same, at least at retail. Regardless, it is what it is. I recently noticed that they've released the GT5R Pro version, so I had to take a look. The GT5R Pro differs from the GT5R primarily in both its receive frequency range and its transmit frequency range. On the receive side, it adds the AM airband, the 1.25 meter ham band, and the 350 to 390 megahertz UHF band, and the 400 to 520 megahertz UHF band. These are in addition to the previous coverage such as the broadcast FM band. On the transmit side, it adds the 1.25 meter ham band in addition to what most would consider the unlocked VHF and UHF bands. All this is wrapped up in the classic UV5R case that's compatible with all the existing UV5R accessories. For US hams, the GT5R with its 1.25 meter band coverage is a positive step for this radio. Let's start by taking a look at what comes in the kit. I purchased the long antenna set directly from Baofeng. Here's the box that the GT5R Pro comes in. Let's open it up and see what we find inside. Now, to charge the radio, it comes with a desk charger. It's hardwired into the back of the little cradle here, and then mine came with US plugs since I'm in the US. From a security standpoint, it comes with a little wrist lanyard here. This is the older style as opposed to the ribbon style that you're finding in some of the newer Baofengs that are coming out. And then the belt clip, and you notice it doesn't come with screws because those are mounted in the back of the radio. The set I got comes with two antennas. It comes with this long 15 or 16-inch antenna, and then the normal regular short rubber ducky. This is kind of a stiff. It bends a little, but not much. And then you see it's got the socket or female end here on the end of the antenna, as does this longer antenna. So it comes with two antennas, which is kind of cool. I've got two things that I've kept wrapped in plastic here. One of them is the programming cable, which is nice that it comes with that. All radios don't do that nowadays. This one did. It's Baofeng branded. It's got the K1 connector on this end. And then the little surveillance style earpiece, wired push-to-talk and microphone set that comes with most Baofeng radios is included with this one as well. Before we look at the radio, let's take a look at the user guide. And it's the pretty typical Baofeng user guide. It's got instructions. It's got the very small type that is kind of ubiquitous to all of these little radios, whether they're Baofengs or not. It has diagrams with various buttons labeled. Displays for what you're going to see on the screen are listed here. And then some brief explanations of things like basic operations and what have you. And then near the back, it's got some troubleshooting in the appendices, and then some instructions on how to go through programming repeaters and programming simplex channels and so forth. So it's pretty typical of the user manuals that you're going to find with these little radios. So here we're looking at the battery and the radio here. You can see it's got the GT5R Pro, and the FCC ID is the same as the Baofeng 5RX, whatever that is, but it just simply means that it's electrically the same, so it doesn't have its own FCC ID. It shares one with this model, and the battery is a 1800 milliamp hour battery, and the fully charged battery is 8.4 volts, and it just snaps on the back here very easily. Now, one thing about the battery that I wish they would have included, because they're available. And for example, my new UV5R Anniversary Edition came with a battery that was USB-C chargeable. So Baofeng makes them. They're available on Amazon.com. But this one, as it comes out of the box, is the older style, and it doesn't have that. So you're going to charge it on the desktop charger that I showed you here just a minute ago. So you're not going to see any of that here on the bottom of the radio. On the side of the radio, on this side, we've got the little doorway that'll open up to show the K1 connector there for the little headphone that came with it, or your programming cable that also came with it, and any of the other UV5R accessories that you may be interested in. And then on the top, we've got the male side of the SMA antenna, the flashlight, and then the on-off and volume knob here on the top. Over here on this side is a little loop for that lanyard. On this side, we've got a couple of keys. So this one's going to set off the alarm or turn on the flashlight, push to talk, and then another programmable key down here. The face of the radio is just like the UV5R, and it's just like the GT5R that is the standard model, which you can see right here. And it's got the VFO button, AB switch, band, menu, exit, up and down buttons that you're used to seeing. It's got the number keys along with a hashtag and a star. And then these tags are labeled with their numbers and then also with the shortcuts to the menus, not with text information. And then it's labeled here GT5R Pro on the bottom. And then the little screen that you can change the color of the background LED here in the menu systems. The microphone is right there, a little dot, and then the speaker is right here. Now, let's turn the radio on and do a quick power on tour. This is what you'll see right out of the box. If you're familiar with these basic Baofeng radios, this will be very familiar. So let's turn the radio on and listen to what it does when it powers up and take a look at some of what the buttons do.
Frequency mode.
So it comes in with the usual female voice from Baofeng, and it's just got two lines, and it's got room for icons up here. Now, this is right out of the box, so I haven't done any programming, so you're not going to see a lot of stuff there. And then you're going to see that the backlight can't be set for all the time. It goes off after about 10 seconds. So you can either have a name or you can have a frequency, the A and B. Switch with this little up A and B button, give you which of the two registers the push to talk is going to apply to. If you press the VFO memory button,
Frequency mode.
it'll come back and tell
Channel
you
mode.
it's in the frequency or channel mode. I'm going to turn that down. And then menu will take us into the menu, and exit will exit the menu. And the menus are exactly the same as the other GT5R. As a matter of fact, I just went through them line by line, and they're all the same. If you're familiar with the UV5R, it works the same way. Now, the other thing I want to point out here is a long press on the 0 key will give you the voltage of your battery. A long press on the scan key will start scanning. A long press on the hashtag will lock the radio. There's a little key that showed up right up there. A short press on the hash key will change the power setting, which is really handy if you're, running on high power and then you're talking with people that are not far away. You can move it to low power. So a hash key, the little low is right there where my finger is. Press again and it goes out. So if there's no L there, that means you're on high power. Then the side keys, the upper side key. Long press turns the alarm on. You can hear it whistling. I've got the volume down. We'll turn that down. A short press turns to the FM radio receiver that's built in for broadcast FM. Another short press will take you out of the FM mode. And then on this lower side key, we'll turn on the flashlight. Another press turns it to blink. And then another press will turn it off. I didn't see a key for the weather, so I'm not sure what that is. I'll have to look at the channel programming. Otherwise, you can just manually enter the weather channels into the appropriate channels, say at the end of the list, and then access them directly. But other than that, it's pretty much the same as that UV5R is pretty much the same or almost exactly the same as the GT5R. The last thing I want to point out to you is that unlike the GT5R, this one will allow airband, and it's nothing you have to turn on or anything like that in the menu system. You simply put airband frequency in. So I'm going to go into VFO mode. I'm going to go 1, 2, 0, 6, 0, 0. And you can see that the number stays there. In the old version of this radio, or the non-pro version, it would just go back to the previous frequency because it wasn't unlocked into the airband. So this one is in the airband. I've listened to it, and it sounds pretty good. So all in all, that's our power on tour here of this GT5R Pro. Hey, if you're finding this video helpful, please click the thumbs up button below the video and subscribe to the Gadget Talk channel if you haven't already. Shares and comments are always appreciated. While I sometimes get review radios from vendors, I purchased this one using channel funds. Your views help generate those funds, so thank you very much. Let's take a look at a couple of the more technical aspects of the radio. First, we'll look at power output, and next at signal purity. So let's take a look at the power output for the GT5R Pro. Here is the high power output for the VHF band. So about 2.6, 2.7 watts output. Let's change to the UHF band and see what we get there. And we've got just over 3. That's a little unusual. Usually UHF is a little less than the VHF, but in this case it's just, a couple of tenths of a watt more. So it's pretty typical for radios of this price range and this style to advertise up to 5 watts and then produce between, 2.6 and 3.1 watts, which is what this GT5R Pro outputs. One of the points I've made with the GT5R and now here with this GT5R Pro is it gives you everything the UV5R Pro gives you plus a clean signal. The UV5Rs are notoriously noisy, so let's take a look in what this is. I've got the Tiny SA Ultra set to measure harmonics. The little blue line across there represents that, 25 microwatts of power that harmonics need to be below. It's at minus 16.02 dB. I've got the radio set on high of 40 dB inline attenuator to keep from damaging my signal analyzer here. And so let's press and see what we get. Okay, so we've got this at about a little less than 40 below, but below the limit here on the blue line. So considerably better than the UV5R here at the VHF call frequency. So now I've got the GT5R connected to the Tiny SA, and let's see what we get with that older version, the non-pro version. Same high power, same frequency. And you can see what made the GT5R's claim to fame is this display, completely clean. It's got the primary here, the number one harmonic, if you will, and then nothing else. And so that's disappointing. As with all these little radios, you can program them from the radio's faceplate, Baofeng's factory CPS, or using Chirp. Chirp is by far the easiest and most comprehensive method, and I highly recommend it. Here's a quick snapshot of Chirp programming for this GT5R Pro. So here's a quick snapshot of Chirp with the GT5R Pro. And so you can see here, I've got it. I've read the radio using the 5RX as Baofeng suggests, and then I labeled the file with the GT5R Pro so I knew what it was. But to use this like you always do, you go in and you can download from the radio. Again, in this case, we want to use the 5RX and then whatever port number your computer comes up with. And this is what I've gotten. And so I was able to import from Chirp from another spreadsheet for the repeaters that I wanted. I was able to program the 220 call in here for one of the channels. It took that. And I was able to put in a couple of channels for a local airport nearby. I put them down here, so you can see I've got the ATIS tower and ground. And then when I imported the GMRS from the stock configurations, it wouldn't let me put in the interstitial channels for GMRS because it didn't have a power rating for that half watt that interstitial channels require, and so they came up with an error. But, doesn't matter. I'm not going to transmit, and those channels aren't that busy anyway. And then here at the bottom are all the weather channels that are set up for the radio. So this is what I've gotten here. It works very well. You can move things around, use the search from repeater book to get these, to get the repeaters from your area, and so forth. Now there's a couple other things though. We want to look at settings. And for here on settings, there are things that I want to point out to you. Because this is a tri-band radio, it's got the upper and lower limits for regular VHF, a secondary VHF, which calls VHF2, which is the 220 band, and then the lower and upper limits for UHF. Unfortunately, I have not been able to get the radio to transmit on 220. I've got these set properly, but when I type in either in VFO mode or in that channel that I just showed you, the radio will not transmit 220. I'm not sure exactly what that is. I haven't tried a 220 antenna, so I don't know if it's blocking that because the antenna is way out of whack or not, but just be aware of that. In the advanced settings here, it's got a couple of other things like authorizing the broadcast FM radio, and then in basic settings, it's got all the other things that you're going to find in your menu. So this is how Chirp will look, and this is how it works. You go back here to the radio, upload it to the radio using the same process, and then save it with a name. And so this will give you a name to start with, but then as you saw up here, I've got it with the GT5R Pro added to the name, so I know what it is. So that's a quick overview of Chirp. So don't be too frustrated if you're not getting that 220. I think there's a bug there somewhere. Now, in this case, when I had it plugged in, I had to use the Baofeng programming cable, otherwise it would return an error with my FTDI cable. So if you've got a box full of cables and it's not working, try the Baofeng cable. When I use the Baofeng factory programming, it also has a setting where you can tell it the frequency range, but that didn't work either. That one, though, I could use the FTDI cable, but it wouldn't work with the Baofeng branded cable. So, it is, these cables and drivers and stuff can be a little finicky, and so don't be afraid to play around a little bit with them. It took me a while here in the settings to find this upper and lower thing, but even when I did, it didn't seem to matter. So that's a quick overview of Chirp programming the radio. For a fairly new release, I'm a little disappointed that it doesn't come with Baofeng's latest UV5R battery that includes a USB-C charging port on the bottom. You'll probably want to order one of those. Amazon has a pair of them for under $20. There are also larger capacity ones if you're interested. The UV5R has had what many described as a cult following for years. This basically due to its small size, low price, lots of accessories, and iconic styling. The GT5R Pro gets you all of that, plus some extra receive bands and the 1.25 meter ham band as well. Somehow, when adding the additional receive and transmit bands, there was an engineering change that, as we saw, resulted in the radio being somewhat noisier than the GT5R non-Pro edition. That's disappointing. If you're needing airband and the 1.25 meter band, the GT5R Pro is a contender. The signal purity is better than many, but still falls a bit short of the standard. Otherwise, the GT5R non-Pro edition remains a good choice. If you're concerned about having 128 channels versus The 999 on some models, don't be. I can't begin to tell you the number of radios I have that have a huge amount of unused channel capacity. There's certainly a place for those high channel count radios, but for the new ham or the experienced ham's backup device, a 128 channel radio is more than enough for most people. So if you're about to pull the trigger on a new or replacement UV5R, I think you'd be wise to consider the GT5R, either basic model or the Pro. Join me over here for my review of the newly released Baofeng Mini 5, another new release worthy of your consideration. Again, please click the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and until next time, 73.